live. Look, I can go. You're on the Sip Sow podcast.
Do you have to load that in? Do you?
Yeah.
That's very good. What have you got on the other buttons?
This is the inspirational intro music.
Oh, this is very cool.
Today,
this makes my
I'm with
podcast look
Adam Kirtland.
Hello. Marvelling at your technology. This puts mine to shame.
I think the others are random things, actually.
I want one to be like a terrible jingle.
They are.
Hello and welcome to the Tom Coleman podcast. Podcast. Which one was that? Oh my god, I love
You
it.
can just throw that in whenever you make a bad
I need to think of a joke now.
Yeah. What else did I do?
Oh my god, were they already on there?
Yeah, these are the preloaded ones.
What's that? A small mouse? A small woodland mammal?
It says cricket.
Oh.
Oh, I love this one. This was going to be
Are
the
you
podcast.
sitting comfortably? Grab a slice of cake and a cup of tea and join Tom Coleman and Adam Kirtland as they discuss everything gardening.
Live from the garden.
Live in your living room. It's Tom Coleman!
You got a good voice for that.
I did contemplate the voiceover work. I love that.
There is actually a hilarious outtake of me doing that. And I'm like, Sip Sow podcast.
Are you ready to sip and sew?
Yeah.
You've come to the right
It's
place.
very like JML vibes, isn't it?
The new JML Sip and Sew podcast. You need to do like an embroidery podcast so that sew's got another meaning, but you'd have to spell it.
Well, I kind of
differently.
did with Madher, the embroidery kits. Actually, we didn't actually make
true.
that joke. We should have.
Did you not?
Yeah,
You should have done.
Oh, I missed an
Yeah.
opportunity on the intro there.
Can you go back and do like an outtakes
Yeah.
compilation? You should do that. Have you got enough?
Oh, definitely, definitely have enough outtakes. The problem will be finding them all
Yeah, that's true.
because sometimes I keep them in for the
Yeah.
trailers or
Yeah.
whatever.
Oh yeah.
But a lot of them get taken out and then I delete
Yeah.
them. Whereas actually, I should probably move them to the end of the timeline and keep them.
I thought of doing a compilation of all the bad things that people have said that I haven't included.
That's a good idea.
like a
The
cancellation
stuff that we have to
compilation.
take out, yeah.
Yeah, the amount of things that some people.
I mean, with some
say,
people as
Tom,
well, I could have made whole other podcasts because we
Yeah.
recorded like 5
forever.
hours.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering what I'm even going to say.
Oh, that's the end of the podcast then,
Bye,
isn't it?
everyone. I don't do the talking. That's the trouble. Is I'm normally asking
yeah,
the things, you know,
that's true.
and just listening.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that's why
But-
I like this job. You've got to talk today.
oh no, what am I going to say?
The tables will be turned
Oh
later.
no. Oh no. Anyway,
We need to crack these mugs.
we do need to talk
Because
about these mugs. I just happen to have these in
Yeah.
my cupboard.
I will have to do a close-up on them. But I arrived at the house to Adam having made us personalised matching mugs. What a cutie.
Vistaprint's finest.
These. I mean, I love this. This is
You can take it home.
It's my new favourite mug.
Take it, or you can leave it here just for when you come, and
When
it's
I
your
come
cup for
over.
when it's for when you're here.
that's
Yeah.
cute. Yeah. I think I might take it home, but basically every day we need to send each other a picture.
This is the only mug that
Of
I
our
will
mug.
use. That sounded
Yeah.
like an advert. This is the only mug I use. The new
Buy
This Cup
your
belongs
mugs
to
now.
Vistaprint, where I do all my printing. I don't. It's the
Vistaprint
first time I've
is
used
great.
Vistaprint.
Is it? It's a bit more expensive than some of the others I've found.
I got
But-
my business card. I mean, this is very boring.
This will probably be cut out, the podcast. Maybe it's
Influencer
exclusive,
admin,
exclusive Instagram content, this.
just for the close friends.
I need a subscriber channel like you, but I'm not popular enough.
Oh, I haven't got a subscriber channel.
I mean,
I've got a Patreon.
broadcast channel.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
terminology.
That's where I put all
From
the
an
exciting
Instagram
things, slash
person.
all the same things that I put on my grid. Just put all the same things like the day before.
See, I could use it to put clips that didn't make it to the podcast
Yeah.
or the outtakes.
You
or...
could.
I could,
Do
but I
it.
can't.
No,
So
I mean it's one
great.
more thing to do, though, isn't it? That's
True.
the thing.
I don't have 10,000 followers. So
Oh, soon, Tom. You will.
I'm
You will.
getting there
You are getting there. Also,
slowly. Oh, yes.
Your favourite cake?
Yes. So, Adam very sneakily. I think.
was
I mean,
very
there
not
was a bit. There's
sneaky.
been a bit of growing competition throughout the episodes. To be fair, of cake and tea and gin and whatever.
Well, the mug comes because of the one that you did with Graham from Woolpots, and didn't he? Did he have
With the hilarious.
the
mug.
Queen? One.
Yeah. Which actually, quite a few people messaged saying they have the same mug.
Oh, really?
So
I've never seen that.
I've
before.
never seen it.
No.
It's really popular. I want it. It's really funny.
I've stolen it from Graham.
I don't know if it's not tastable or not, but it's hilarious.
I'm not sure it's. I'm not sure it's
So
right.
now we've got our own mugs.
Yeah.
I love that.
I was going to get one with Sip and Sow on it, but I thought you know this is.
I was
personal.
thinking as well.
Is there a hair in there, Tom? That you just
Yes, I think it's mine. I was thinking, should I get like some Sip and Sow mugs to like bring with me or like leave with guests and that sort of thing? So
you just get a big banner for when you do like a live
like
podcast.
Backdrop.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's true. So maybe for season 2.
Yes.
Or maybe for Christmas. You'll get a Sip and Sow mug for Christmas.
I'd love one.
Sorted.
Can I have a mouse mat and a pen?
No,
What
that's
was
too
this?
expensive.
No,
Have
it's
you
too
looked
much.
on Vista?
Yeah, I have because I bought these. This was like £40 worth of mug, you know, these two.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Because if you buy
Well, I only
one or
ordered them
two-
Wednesday and I wanted them to come today.
That's the
so,
it's the postage. That's what got
my
to
own
me.
fault. I paid. I mean, this is not very exciting, so I do
He
apologise.
paid.
everyone.
Come on.
These were like I think £18 each, which is ridiculous, and then I paid
Better not
£12
drop
to get
it.
them delivered in time for the
God.
recording. I know.
They really are £40 worth of
They
mug.
are.
But it has I don't know what the vibe is. It's like a Pantone. You know those mugs where they have the colours.
A Panto?
No, Pantone.
Oh, like
you know the
pantomime.
Pantone mug where it has
Pantone,
the
yeah.
colour reference
Yeah.
and stuff. It's
Oh, it
kind of
does,
a bit
doesn't
like
it?
those.
And your favourite colour is yellow.
My
of course.
favourite colour.
Which
So
I
Adam,
definitely already
that's what I
knew
was
and
saying.
didn't
Adam
ask you.
cryptically texted me, "What's your favourite cake or biscuit? And what's your favourite colour?" And I was like, "This seems suspicious, but yellow is my favourite colour, or orange, I think I said."
Okay. I didn't do an orange one.
No,
so-
yeah, I'm waiting for the
Just yellow.
second one. And so you got me this amazing mug, which is now my favourite, and carrot cake, which is my favourite cake for everyone listening.
The
who
drama
wants
I
the same
went to
cake.
find this, though, we've got within, I don't know, 2 miles of our house, we've got like 3 co-ops, like 12 corner shops. None
What,
of
they didn't
them
have
had
carrot
carrot cake. I had to go to M&S for this, I think, or Asda, or I can't remember. I
M&S
think it was
cake.
Asda, actually.
Oh,
Sorry. We can go to M&S after, and I can get you
I'll leave it.
one to take home. Have you had any yet? It's not very good.
Is it because it's from
Only the
Asda?
finest for one of my best friends.
We shouldn't slate Asda on the podcast,
No,
should
we
we?
shouldn't. I love Asda.
Yay.
another product placement. This is just full of product placement.
The best was when Graham was saying, "Can I mention brands?" Yeah, as
did
long
work
as
for
you're
the
not about to
BBC.
slate
Yeah.
them, then yes. Yeah, exactly, yeah. I don't want to not have any working
No.
relationships with garden centres going forward. So
No.
as long as you're about to see something
I think we've
positive.
scuppered you working with Vistaprint.
And
I'm afraid.
Asda, yeah.
Yeah, and
This
Asda.
has not been a great
It is
one
actually
for
quite nice.
promotions. Great, that's redeemed us. Should we actually talk about
Yes.
podcasting?
Yes.
I'm asking you questions on this one.
Oh,
aren't I?
okay. This feels very weird. I have been on a podcast before, but it was, I think, maybe like the first year of doing anything. So I didn't really have anything to talk about, strangely. But I think we were still, or we were in like the second lockdown then, I think.
Oh, really?
So like the garden that you can see like now, although, you know, it's not incredible, it's totally different to what it was then. Like totally different. And I sometimes, you know, when you look back at old photos of like your garden or your house and stuff, and you genuinely don't appreciate what has changed because you've obviously been part of it for the whole process. You don't really realise what has changed until you look back at like something that's completely different. And I was looking back at my Instagram the other day, and when we redid this whole bit here, which is like this seating bit at the top of the garden, when we first moved in, there were 2 trees that had fallen here, and we had no idea what was like underneath the trees. We've been here maybe 7 years now, I think. And that's what it was like when we first moved in. There were these 2 trees, and then one summer we just decided we were going to clear them and do something with this space. We didn't really know what, and at that point I wasn't really into gardening, so it was just a bit of a not a challenge, but like we're just going to do it to clear the space. And then there was like a broken greenhouse under here, and there was like all sorts of other things, just bits and bobs that obviously the previous people had just chucked in. And then we opened it up, and like it doesn't feel like a massive space now, but like with nothing in it, this space is quite big. And I think that was one of the lockdowns, I think. And then as we came out of the lockdown, then we could start to get stuff delivered and things, because obviously no one was delivering anything at that kind of first point. Then we got a load of wood delivered to make the pergola, which we did ourselves. Then the slate that's on the floor, that was before we built the pergola, because they came around the back and dropped it over the fence, which was really cool. But then like all of the bamboo on the walls and stuff, we did all of that ourselves, and that was like it was a post-lockdown project, but like to make this a usable area, we just did it all ourselves, to be honest. And like now it's a really usable space. We probably don't use it as much as we could, but like in summer when the girls have gone to bed, like this is where we'll sit.
This is the hideout.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's quite nice because it's at the side of the shed, and you're kind of tucked away up here.
Yeah, and you
just
kind
see
of
the
don't, nobody
house,
overlooks
but-
or anything, which
Yeah,
is quite
exactly.
like the neighbours can see, but nothing rude goes on up here, so it's fine. Not yet, anyway.
I don't want to know what goes on up there. Sat in
Nothing
these
rude,
chairs,
no.
thank you. But it's lovely. You've got like the little planters, herb planters, and
And we made this bench
strawberries growing out
of
of pots and
out of
stuff.
sleepers and stuff, and like I think we've always just tried to do. We've done everything ourselves, I think, in the garden, which I know most people have. But like when we did move in, it was such a blank canvas, and there were like a couple of like hebes, I think, and like these conifers and stuff that were here. But otherwise, like it was just nobody had done anything with it, and I think the person that was here before was quite elderly, and I think had probably given up on it at that point. So it was a great thing to be able to just do exactly what we wanted, like from nothing. And we really did make the most of, especially that first lockdown. We made the most out of it, because I was furloughed like everyone else was, but only for 6 weeks. I was only off for 6 weeks, and then I went back to work. And in that time, we like pretty much dug out everything that there was. I mean, this is not great for an audio podcast, so for anyone watching on YouTube, this is great. But like all of where the grass is, like that was wider, but there was a really thin path, and like it was, although it was a blank canvas, it was kind of unusable in the state that it was. But over the last, how long has it been since lockdowns now?
3 years now.
Well, in the 3 years,
I
like it's
think.
now a proper kind of usable space, and like a space that we can actually plant into. And it just, I think, minorly to my wife and children's annoyance, like I just keep chipping away at the lawn like slowly. There's
Every
like,
time I come, the borders have got slightly bigger.
and the lawn's just got smaller and smaller. Yeah, it's been great though. I've loved it, and I think what's been amazing about it is that it's kind of unlocked something that I didn't know that was really there. And I think that's what's been amazing about like Instagram and watching everybody else come through the similar process though, is that everybody's found these things, whether it's gardening or I always say knitting on my podcast, or like whatever it is, like playing the guitar or like, I don't know, learning Russian or whatever. Like that gave us the time to be able to do some of those things. And I think this just completely unlocked something that was in there that I had absolutely no idea was really there. And that has then just become like my life. You know, it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you think back, you don't reflect on it.
Because when you started the journey and you started doing the Instagram, did you start it when you kind of started doing the garden? When did you join Instagram?
I can't actually remember. I always think it's the first lockdown, but I don't think it actually
Were
was.
you always viewed from the potting bench?
No, I was. Well, so I've got a. I shouldn't say this because everyone's going to go looking for it now. But I've got a personal one that's got like,
Do you?
I don't know, like holiday and like whatever, and like the kids and
I'm
stuff
not
or whatever.
friends with you on there, am I?
Sorry, have you got a personal one? No, you haven't, because you told me about yours.
Yeah,
If
now
you scroll
everyone's
far
going to go
enough
and
back,
look on mine.
you scroll far enough back, it starts to get minorly embarrassing, doesn't it, on yours?
Yeah, if you scroll back far enough on mine, you get terrible haircuts and holiday pictures from
That's only from last week. I'm joking.
from last week. Yeah.
I'm joking. But no, I've got like a personal one, and then this one started. I don't think it started at the same time. Maybe it did roughly at the same time, but I started it like I think most people did, as just like somewhere to stop annoying my wife with pictures of the garden and like things about the garden and like whatever. And it started as Adam Titchmarsh.
That's brilliant.
But then
Have
I
you told
thought,
Alan about that?
No.
You'd have had a lawsuit on your hands.
Well, that's why I
there.
changed it. I think it was that for maybe, I don't know, a couple of months or something, and I thought, no.
Think of
like
the fun you
this-
could have had there.
Yeah, I know.
Your podcast could have been Adam titting around in the garden.
Marsh.
Yeah,
No.
loads of fun to be had there.
No. And then it actually, yeah, I thought I've got to change it because I can't keep it like this. And then I was sitting in the shed at the potting bench, and I looked out over the garden. I took a photo like from the potting bench. I think it was like later in the day, and the sun, because the sunset's just like right out the shed window. It's gorgeous. And I think I was just looking out, and I took a picture, and I think I wrote in the caption. I'm only realising this now, but I think I wrote in the caption, "This is my view from the potting bench." And I think then it just came
That's
from
where
there.
it all started.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And then the rest is history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell everyone about where you actually are as well. In the world.
In the world.
Yeah.
So I'm in Birmingham, United Kingdom, not Alabama. Anyone that's in America, and I don't know. We're probably, I don't know how many miles. It's maybe like 20 minutes outside of the centre of Birmingham. It's really not that far at all. But it's like a proper. You don't see this from Instagram, do you? You see people's gardens, but you don't really get
Exactly.
an idea.
You don't really work out where they are and what the climate is and what the conditions are.
No, and we
stuff
were
like that.
saying this like just before, is that where I am in Birmingham, I can't say this is the same for the whole of the West Midlands or even the East Midlands, but like where we are in Birmingham, at the moment we've got this storm Babette. Is it Babette? I've not actually heard anyone say what it's called.
Oh, no,
but
I haven't actually.
It's spelt Babet, so I've just
Yeah.
presumed it's Babette. That's like raging on in Scotland and stuff. But we never get the full force of anything in Birmingham
No.
anyway. Like we never do. We get like bad rain and bad wind and stuff, but it's never that bad. But like it's a very, very average mid-terrace house, like 20 minutes from Birmingham, and it's not a big garden like at all. And again, you can't really portray that on like a photo or a reel or anything, can you? How like the size of it, but it's not tiny, but it's not massive by any means, and it's quite. I'd say it's quite an average.
I'd say it's
like,
a
mid-terrace.
normal garden.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I think
it's-
that's the thing.
There's not a normal, but
Like an average.
it's an
garden,
average
yeah.
kind of, average garden that you get with a terrace house, like you
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what's weird, me and my wife were talking about this the other day, is that I grew up with a mum and dad that gardened, but not like as a passion, just that they'd mow the lawn and do the weeding and like just keep it tidy. But where we used to live in a cul-de-sac, and it was the corner of a cul-de-sac, so our garden like spread around the whole corner, so it was much bigger than all of the other ones in the cul-de-sac. So I always grew up with like this quite big garden, I suppose, like very like average. It's literally, if you crane your neck, you can probably see the house from here.
Oh,
If you
really?
look out the top window, it's really not that far. So then when we moved in here, like this felt quite small. But I think what we've always wanted to do is make a garden that's that looks nice but is also functional as well. And I know that's kind of the dream for everybody's garden. But again, we've got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, which kind of limits you slightly, because obviously we joke about the lawn, but if we didn't have kids, that would have all been looked at by now. That would literally just all be dahlias, I think. But obviously we've still got to have a space for them to play. And we built like a little Wendy house thing, and there's a mud kitchen that I haven't shared yet, but I've been doing that from like pallets and whatnot. But yeah, it's quite it's an average sized garden, but I kind of feel like this bit up here is like mine and my wife's in a way. Like the girls do come
Yeah.
up here, but like it's
There's
not
not
that
really anything
exciting
for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although they come up and just eat the herbs and stuff like that.
That's nice.
Yeah, it is nice.
Probably
It's very
tastes
nice.
a bit grim, but
Yeah, but yeah, so it's like it's very like bog standard, like British city urban. I don't know, garden. I suppose.
But I
is
like
the best
that because it's a normal garden that
Yeah.
anyone could have, and you show what you can do with it.
Yeah, exactly. I think you can do so much with any garden. I think I sometimes like I'm looking at our bedroom window now. Not our bedroom window. Mine and my wife's bedroom window. Is this the time to tell everyone that we've shared a bed before?
No,
Okay,
we
you
won't
heard it-
make that
you heard it here
revelation.
first.
here.
But yeah, you look out your bedroom window. I don't know if anyone else does this, but you have a cheeky look at like your neighbours' gardens, don't you? You kind of
Yeah.
look either side, and you see what anyone else is doing. And I think you sometimes get loads of inspiration just from that. And I also think that that's great, especially when you move into a new garden. as to like what you can do in your garden as well. I always hear this on like gardeners' question time and someone says, "Can I grow this here? Can I grow that there?" And they always say like, "Look at your neighbours' gardens. What are they growing? What are they doing?"
Yeah.
And I always do that because our next door neighbours have got quite a nice garden. It's lots of it's quite old-fashioned, I'd suppose. Like there's lots of like bedding plants and stuff, which is great. But it always looks really, really colourful. Like no matter what time of year. And I always kind of have a sneaky look and think, oh, can we put some more pots in? But I think we're kind of reaching
Maxed out.
max pot front. Yeah, definitely.
And then this year not this year, but you've become the king of DIY, I think.
I just like it. I just like making stuff. And I always think that if you can make something instead of buying it, it might take you much longer and actually end up costing you more. That's the deception with DIY. Is everyone thinks that it makes everything cheaper, and it does sometimes. But I've had times where I've made things and I think this would have just been easier and cheaper to have bought it.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that I really like is like pallets. And obviously, again, if you're watching, you can see this table I just knocked up. Literally,
Adam just knocked up this table for the podcast.
I mean, that sounds better than it is. So, like, if you're looking at it, you're going to be looking at it thinking, yeah, it looks like it's not.
It's a lovingly handcrafted pallet table.
It's just a pallet with 4
that
bits
may
of wood.
fall over.
It's a little bit wobbly. But I don't know where that actually... I do know where it came from, the pallet thing, because I had...
The pallet thing has become your thing.
Well, I mean, literally, I haven't showed you the inside of the shed yet, but it's just full of pallets, pretty much. And if you'll all start to notice this now. I always say this, like if I do like a talk or whatever, but if you are just driving around, you'll start to notice pallets. Like once somebody tells you about them, you start to notice them on like people's driveways and stuff. And I kind of reached max pallet. I should change my name to Max Pallet. Reached like maximum pallet storage. I know, it's right. Good, isn't it? I might start an offshoot, a second personal Instagram account. I reached like maximum storage for pallets this week, and I had a spare pallet, and I put it out the front for someone to take away, and it was gone within like a couple of hours. But that started because I think it was during that first lockdown, I was desperate for compost like everybody else was, and I had some delivered from a nursery, and they delivered like 8 bags or 10 bags, I can't remember what it was, on a pallet, and then they just like dropped it and just went. And I got this pallet, and I thought, well, what should I do with it? So I just put it in the garage, never did anything with it for ages, and then kept seeing it every time I went to go in and like mow the lawn or whatever, and kept looking at it and thinking I can do something with this. And then one day I just took a hammer to it and like just broke it apart, got all of my frustration of the week out on it, broke it apart, and I just got like a pile of wood. And I think at that point I made a bug hotel. And then the next time I'd got a pallet, I made a planter, and then another type of planter, and another type of planter, and then this and that and whatever. And it just kind of went like mad from there, to be honest. But I just love pallets.
I'm Adam,
I need that on a mug.
I love pallets.
It's sad to some. I'm definitely middle-aged now. And it wasn't a joke. Oh my god, that's so terrible. I can't believe I've just said out loud, I love pallets. This is like Pallets Anonymous.
If you need help for your pallet addiction, then join
pallets.
Adam. Max Pallet.
Max
that is a great name though. And I was chatting to Niall. I don't know if you know this, but Niall changed his name from, he was originally, what was he? Amazing Gardening or something like that. Garden Amazing.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and he changed his name to Niall Gardens, as you know now. But people think that his surname is Gardens.
Oh,
and I was saying, what, like a weather girl? Like, because weather girls obviously have to have, like, they're called Teresa Hurricane or whatever.
Sarah Blizzard.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what that's called? When you've got a name.
No.
You didn't come to this podcast for facts, but you're getting them. It's called nominative determinism. And it's when your name...
basically gives you a job.
Determines, predetermines what you do. So there's Sarah Blizzard, and there's a weather presenter. It's like Simon Wind or something. It's
there are a few of them that have, and
I love that.
They were born to do that job.
Yeah, but that's not Niall's surname.
No, that's what people think that Niall Gardens. You were born. You had to be a garden YouTuber.
I didn't know who changed his name. I love Niall so much.
So you could be Max Pallet.
Max Pallet.
And that's why you are addicted to pallets.
Yes, I am. Sadly, it's something that I'm trying to overcome.
Anyway, yeah, gone on a bit
yeah.
of a detour there.
Yeah.
But you've kind of, that's become a bit of your thing, and you've been to shows and talked about it and taught people how easy it can be to make loads of, I mean, I came away with loads of ideas from your talk
And a
at
palette.
Wisley and a palette, because I actually couldn't be bothered to make my own. I was so inspired. But you've kind of, been sharing that and telling everyone about it, haven't you?
I love, like, genuinely love DIY, and I think there's something about, like, you can buy a planter and put it together, or like buy it fully formed and take it home, and like it just sits there and kind of doesn't have any meaning to it. But I think there's something about when you've made something, it's got much more of a meaning to it. And like the bench and stuff, that was really easy, and that was just with sleepers. And like the pergola and stuff, like that could have just been a kit, and we could have just put that up, and like that would have been nice. But I think the fact that we know that we put hours into it and like
The
proper
same,
work.
it's almost
into
like the same with gardening. What half the time,
100%.
we love that it looks great, but actually, what most of us love is the gardening
Yeah.
and actually growing our own things, even if it ends up to be rubbish. We like the process and we like doing it. And it's the same with making your own thing.
Yeah.
It's going to be
you're
better
right.
in the end just because you made it,
Exactly.
and you can think, "Oh, I made that."
I don't feel like we talk about that enough, like the gardening side of it, on Instagram anyway. In that most people's Instagrams, like mine included, is like a beautiful plant or a beautiful flower or whatever. But I don't think we often talk about like the actual process of it and how, because that's why we all do it. Really, we don't ever. You don't become a gardener to finish a garden, do you?
No.
Like, and your garden's never finished, and it's not like it's the finished article. It's that process of gardening that I think we.
Whenever
all
I've
love
had
the
a
most.
garden, and when it is finished, I have to rip up and
Do
start
something
again,
else, yeah.
and change the colour scheme or change
Yeah.
the whole planting design, because it's the process for me that I enjoy.
Yeah.
It's seeing, it's the what will it come out like, how will these plants do here?
Exactly.
Do I need to move it around? Will the colours come out? And all that process. And actually, when it's done, I'm like, this is boring now.
Yeah, exactly. And you can plan it to a T and think it's going to look exactly one way.
It never does.
No, it never does. Like to be fair, my garden, or the borders especially, are planned like almost meticulously because they're not very deep, and I want to maximise the space. So they're probably, I don't know, 60 centimetres deep maybe. So I kind of think of that as like 2 rows. There's like a back, and you know when you think of a border and you do like short plants at the front, middle, and the tall at the back. We haven't got space to do that, so I kind of go like tall and then short, or tall and then medium. So I have to plan them, and I think, well, it's 3 metres wide, so I can probably fit 3 dahlias, and then what do I put in the front? So like that is all planned out, just because I want to make the most of the space.
Yeah.
But then like the pots and stuff is kind of a bit of a free for all.
Well, that's why I love pots though as well, because you can mix them and match them, and when something looks good, you can have it at the front, and when it looks rubbish, you can move it to the back.
Exactly.
And you can do all your spring bulbs and keep them out of the way, and all of that sort of thing. Be moving them in and out and stuff.
Do you know what I really, really love about pots, and some of the gardens that I really love that I've seen on Instagram that are container based, is the ones that you don't even realise are containers. So John, the bee gardener, I know he's just moved, but like all of his own garden, I've never been, but you've been, like, unless he told you that was all pots, you'd have no idea.
A lot of it was all pots in
Incredible.
that little tropical kind of area.
Absolutely incredible. And I just think that pots are so amazing for that, because like you say, you can, so like I've planned all my tulips for next year, and they're all like pink and orange, and I've thought how that's going to look, but I almost guarantee that there'll be some that I'll plant next to each other and they'll come out and they won't look right, but then you can just shuffle them around,
Exactly.
can't you?
That's the thing. That's what I did last year with all the tulips that I did. I planted them all in pots, and then when they come out, you can then play around them, right? So they're all varieties in a pot, and then you can, that works. That one, that looks nice. Creates a bit of a. Hate that one. I'll hide that one round the back.
Just put it in the bin.
Because you don't know, do you? And you want to try new varieties, and you might hate them when they come out, or you know, whatever. You can give them to someone if they're in a pot.
That's the good. That is the good thing about. But again, about like tulips and things, or I mean, any bulbs, or even dahlias as well. There are a few that I grew this year that I thought I'm going to absolutely love, and they come out, and you're just like, not actually sure. Or it's like
not as good as
too
they
garish,
make out.
or it's, or even it's the wrong tuber. I mean, that's happened a lot this year. Like,
that has happened a lot this year.
So many wrong tubers.
Yeah, something was going wrong in one of the factories somewhere, and they.
But I think it's been with so many different suppliers. Like, it's not just. But I ordered some, and I ordered 3 of the same to sit along one part of a border, and they all ended up being different. 1 was the right one, and 2 were. I don't even know what they are. I haven't been able to identify them, but I do love a dahlia. do love a dahlia.
Yeah, yeah. And what's
Never used
funny,
it.
I was about to say, because
I know.
rewind a few years ago when I first met Adam, and he hated dahlias, and then now
It's
you've
only because
really
they were
kind
a
of
pain.
yeah, yeah.
But they're not really, are they?
They're not really, no.
Everyone thinks that they are. And I think all you need to do, and this is what happened with me, is you have one bad year with slugs, and it's enough to put you off. And that's what
I get that a
happened with
lot,
me.
and I've just shared that
Yeah.
series of reels about what to do with your dahlias over winter and stuff, and it's all of that puts people off. And I had comments in that, well, the slugs ate all mine, so I gave up. And it can take one bad winter.
Yeah.
Last year, whether you left them or lifted them, pretty much everyone lost them because it was just so cold that no one expected. That put a lot of people off them because you just think, well, I've spent all that money and whatever I did, I lost them.
Lost them anyway, yeah.
But I think that's part of gardening, like we say,
Yeah.
though, and the wins and the losses and learnings and that sort of thing. But actually, generally speaking, they're not that difficult.
No, they're not. And I think if you put... so that was the first year, which I think was... It wasn't last year, but the year before. That was the first year that I'd ever grown them, I think, from tuber. I think I'd had some in pots, but from tuber. I didn't have any problem growing them, but I didn't know, fully the problem with slugs and, how much they love the immature plants. Because that's the thing, is that I think most people just think... A bit like hostas, everyone goes, oh, they love hostas, which they do. But it's mainly when they're immature. That's the thing. And so when your tuber's, sprouting and you're getting your first... growth, that's when they're... I don't know what it is, it must be some sort of chemical thing, but that's when they're appealing to slugs. When they start to get bigger, they're not interested as much.
I think they just get tougher, don't they, at that point, and they're a bit tough
Not as
old
tasty.
cabbage kind of
Tough
thing.
old cabbage.
I'll go for the tender stuff.
Yeah.
So I
younger
suppose
cabbage.
it's just nice and fresh when it comes out. But that's the time you've got to protect them. And if you can get them through that stage,
They're fine,
by
aren't
any
they?
means possible.
I mean, I probably put in every protection possible.
Yeah.
So I said I wasn't going to do them, and then last year somebody had a sale. I think it was the Rose Press Garden had a sale, and I just got a couple of cafe au lait, and I thought, okay, I'll just try them. And obviously they did amazingly, and then kind of was bitten by the bug, and I think we had 20 this year. But again,
and I love that one there that I can see. Is that the
pinky
Molly
one.
Raven one?
No, that's Perch Hill, I think.
Oh, is it?
There are 3 there that are pretty much the same colour,
it's
but they're
the
all
one
Sarah Raven ones.
I can see. It's going to be
great.
boring podcast content.
Audio.
The one closest to the... What is that?
The greenhouse.
Greenhouse.
Yeah.
With the big, where they've gone on slightly over.
Oh, yeah. I don't know which one that is. I think that might be Perch Hill. But those 3 are all from Sarah Raven. There's Perch Hill, Molly Raven, and Sarah Raven, and they're all quite
They're
similar.
a nice mixture of colours. So
They are.
slightly orangey pink, which is
Sarah
my
Raven is
favourite kind of
gorgeous,
tone. That
Yeah.
kind of... Anything from Totally Tangerine and Burlesque, anything
We've
like
got
that, where
Burlesque
it's
as well.
heavy.
Yeah.
That's actually my favourite dahlia,
Really nice.
which is controversial.
Yeah,
but
it's very nice.
because it's just that blend
Yeah.
of purple
It's
to
like a
orange,
gradient,
it's like a
isn't it?
sunset.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're quite... I wish they were bigger.
I do, they're quite
just
small,
smaller
yeah.
pom-poms. But
Yeah.
anything on that kind of colour palette is my favourite.
I think all of ours have been either pinky red or claret or orange. I just love orange. I know everyone talks about Totally Tangerine, but it is incredible, and it's it's small, but it's prolific. There's so many.
I was about to say
flowers.
that's my favourite, but I just told you that Burlesque was my favourite. See, this
Just
is the
lying to
problem.
us.
Maybe I have to have a different... That's my favourite
Different days of the
bull
week.
variety.
Yeah.
My favourite... What are they called? Singles?
The Totally Tangerine's an anemone one, I think, isn't it?
Is it?
I think.
Oh, yes, but
I might be wrong, but it's where
the
it's got
flower
the
is... it's like that.
puffly middle
Yes,
and
puffly
single
middle.
puffly middle.
Totally Tangerine is my favourite one of those.
Yes.
Because... I don't know what because, but it's just
It's reliable. That's the
it's
thing.
reliable.
Yeah.
It's prolific with flowering and just the colours. Again, it's that kind of orangey bit with a hint of pink.
Yeah.
Um,
Quite short stems though. That's the only.
It's good for pots. It's my
Yeah.
favourite to recommend for pots because it stays quite compact and short, but
Yeah.
prolific flowering.
Yeah.
It's not going to get 10 foot tall like some of them. And
It's
really
good for the front
heavy.
of a border. So that's what we did there. Is that you've got a load of those are all from Sarah Raven, just kind of coincidentally, but they were some of my favourites. Sarah Raven is really nice. Molly Raven, I think, is my favourite. It's just gorgeous. It's like a proper mix of pink and red. I think we've got one of those. I'll show you in a minute. And then Lou Farman is my other one, which, again, not great for audio, this, but you can see behind... you see the Totally Tangerine?
Yeah, but the one that's coming through behind
It's a
that.
single, and it's so,
like a deep
so
pink.
gorgeous. And then a bit further along, there's Hawaiian... I think there's sunset and sunrise. I think ours is sunset. and I got that from Gardeners World Live, and it's very similar to Leaf Almond, but it's orange, but it's quite a tame orange. It's quite a pale orange, but it's got a really nice centre. I love those single ones because you quite often see, like, they're obviously swarming in bees, like in summer, but you quite often see, I don't know what it is about those, but you know when you see a bee and it's just resting, and you can go back later and it's still there, and it's just having a bit of a snooze or whatever. But I've found that on Leaf Almond, I don't know why I'm doing this with my hands, but Leaf Almond,
Ready for a bee.
exactly, it's just going to land on my hand. And Hawaiian Sunset are both similar. They've always got like a bee just like resting.
Well,
on
that's
them.
the thing, is one of the common things that people say about the dahlias is the only thing is that you know, they're not good for pollinators because they're closed, most of them, the big balls or the, you know, the big dinner plate varieties, but the singles are the best for bees, and there's plenty for them, and they're attractive and big and bright and colourful. So it's nice if you do like dahlias to have a bit of a mixture of all of those, because then you at least have something for pollinators as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the thing, is you can do all singles just for pollinators, but then you would be losing out on all the other gorgeous varieties, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And I think that's sometimes a conversation that people have about the closed dahlias, is that they're not perfect for pollinators, but you can't. Your garden is like a buffet for bees, isn't it? And like not all bees are going to like the same thing. Not all pollinators are going to like the same thing. And like sometimes it's nice to have things that are for you as well. And it's lovely to have a pollinator garden, but you've got to have things that you really like as well.
And they are great for other different types of wildlife as well, whether we want them or not. They're normally full of earwigs.
It's funny you say that though, because I've cut ours like prolifically this year and always bring them in the house. And it's like a matter of like minutes sometimes where you look and there's like a spider dangling from it, or the little, I can't remember what they're called, like the shield bugs, the green ones. I can't remember what they're called, but they've got they're like the shape of a shield, and like they're all over the house.
There's loads of stuff, because it's a perfect hiding place for wildlife inside those.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
They're going to be great for something. So it is about having a mixture, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially when you've only got relatively small space.
Limited space,
then
yeah,
it's
exactly.
having a mixture, isn't it? That works, something that, like you say, works for you, works for the wildlife, works for everything.
Yeah, and if you don't try it, you just never know, do you? So like this year, I think we've got Cafe LA, we've got Cafe LA Rosé and Cafe LA Royal, and they've all been great, and they're all too similar, I think, for such a small garden. So
Royale's my least favourite, I think.
I liked it, but I just like that pink tinge to it, and I think because LA is really nice and it's massive, I think they're probably too big for our garden.
They get a bit big, don't they?
Yeah. Perhaps when we've got a bigger garden, maybe.
Anyway, we've basically created a Dahlia podcast now.
That's an idea.
That is a great idea.
The Dahlia cast?
Yeah.
Don't steal that, anyone.
Well, Minaj has been trying to get me to do. He's come up with loads of different ideas as well, and like we could do a podcast about this, we could do a podcast about this.
About anything.
Maybe next season we'll have to just have like specific
Dahlia
topics
specials.
or something. Yeah, the Dahlia special.
Can I come on the tulip one, please?
Yes, you.
Although I'm
100%.
babbling on about dahlias, like I'm not that bothered by them. It's tulips that I'd like.
I love them. I'll cut all that out of the podcast.
No, I love them. But I also hate.
But
this
tulips
weird
and spring
time.
bulbs have become your thing.
Yes. Yeah, I think
as
so.
well as DIY planting and everything else that is your thing. But spring bulbs, I mean, you started me off on them last year.
And you had a lot last year.
I had about 1,500 something last year.
I think we had 2,700.
I think I had a bag when you started, and then every week you were like, I've bought more. I've got 500. And it's not about. It wasn't ever a competition, but it was funny, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But
you know,
you just made me think. Going bigger and planting up loads of pots and moving them around like we kind of talked about actually is a great idea.
It is.
And I thought, I don't want to get to spring and look at Adam's pots bursting with spring bulbs and think, I wish I'd really done that. So I thought, if you can't beat them, join them.
I've pared back slightly this year. I think there's only 2,000 this year.
People aren't going as mad this year.
It's because we haven't got Wilco. Sorry
True.
to say. That's the sad thing about Paul. Forever in our hearts. Just a minute there for the.
To be fair, most of my bulbs either came from Hearts or Farmer Gracie.
Mine have this year. I've also used Dutch Grown as well, which I've not heard about. It's a website called Dutch Grown. I've ordered almost all of my tulips from there this year.
Oh, really?
They're not like any cheaper or anything anywhere else, but the varieties are amazing. But I've also got some from Rose Press Garden, Farmer Gracie, and
There's so many
Hearts
great
as well.
places
Yeah.
for bulbs, basically. out
So
there,
many.
with all different varieties. So that's the thing. I think have a look and
Yeah.
see which varieties take your fancy. But
And
then
again,
that's
like
how it
dahlias, though,
starts.
there are
Because
so
then
many
everyone
different
you're like,
types.
I'll have 10 of them,
Yeah.
10 of them, and all they've got
That's-
different ones on their website.
That's
So
the
I have
problem.
them.
That's the problem. I always want to order them from one place so you can save on the postage and whatever, but
Yeah.
that never happens. But like dahlias, there are so many different types of tulips, and I think that's the exciting thing about tulips is that you've got all of the doubles and you've got all the frilly ones and you've got all the parrot ones and you've got everything. They're all so different, and you could almost just say, well, I'm just going to have singles or I'm just going to have doubles, and you could do that one year and do a different thing the next year and have a completely different garden. And I don't think I've kept any of the same varieties as last year. Maybe just ballerina. Ballerina is amazing.
Ballerina's a nice
oh my
one, yeah.
god! So I get a lot of my ideas for tulips from Clay Stalby because he's just incredible. For anyone that hasn't seen his garden, please look, because it's just, and again going back to what we were saying about pots, like it's primarily container based, and it's like a in spring when he brings his pots out, he's got like tiered like theatres and they're
Yeah.
like proper like massive staging like
They're
things that he's
insane.
got, and he's got a little tractor thing that's got a trailer on the back, and he puts all his pots in there and brings them out and arranges them and stuff. They're incredible. But I saw Ballerina in his book first, but it's such a gorgeous, it's a single, but it's a really, really tall, like elegant orange tulip. That's the only way I can describe it without
Yeah.
going into like too much detail. But I think that is the only one that we've bought from last year. I think everything else is like a brand new variety, like brand new to the market. Because I just like trying new ones as well. I like the
going
idea of
back to
having
what
something
we were saying,
that someone
isn't
else
it? And
hasn't
the
got.
whole bit of gardening and trying something new. The great thing with spring bulbs is every year you get a new chance. You can pick a different colour scheme, different types,
Yeah.
different varieties. And like you say, you're doing none basically that you did last time,
Yeah.
and you can completely. I last time did whites and pinks, and the rest of the garden was oranges and stuff
Yeah.
normally. But you get a whole season before the season basically,
Yeah,
because all your
exactly.
perennials don't come up and flower
No.
at that point. So you can create a whole colour scheme that then is going to die back before the rest of your normal,
Yeah.
kind of more permanent stuff comes out.
That's what I like about these seasons as well. It's kind of, I don't like the bits between the the kind of pre-spring, I suppose, which I suppose is winter really, and like when you're waiting for the perennials and stuff to come back. But I love that you've kind of got, when you think about spring and summer as like two distinct parts of the garden calendar, I know some people are able to kind of seamlessly intertwine the seasons. That I'm not one of those people. It's like it's spring and summer and there's nothing in between.
There's
Like-
spring bulbs and then there's dahlias.
Like you can look at it now and like it's still, even though we're middle of October, end of October, there's still quite a lot of colour, which is, even though the temperature's dropped. But give it, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks, it's going to be
It
bare.
could be,
Like my
yeah.
garden is bare in winter, and
Yeah.
that's the thing that you don't see on Instagram and stuff. I need to share more of that this year, but it's literally all of that comes out. I'm not very good at keeping dahlias either, so I'll try, but none of them generally survive. So I kind of put off, and I'll just get new ones or try and get cheaper ones. I'll try and keep the tubers, but I probably could just leave them in. But because I've packed so many bulbs in, what I don't want to do is when I'm planting the bulbs is just go through a tuber. And
Yeah.
I find it hard to.
Someone gave
plant
me a great
around or
tip
whatever.
the other day, which was, like the mesh bags you can get now for vegetables.
Yeah.
Hang them up in those with a bit
Oh.
of like sawdust and stuff. But the air going around them stops
Yeah.
them from getting damp
that's
and
good.
mouldy.
I saw what I was going to try, because I think there's a few that I'll try to save, mainly because not necessarily to save the variety, so I've got it for next year, but to save it as a bigger tuber. That's the reason that I'd want to dig them up,
Yeah.
so that you can have a bigger plant next year. But I might try that with a couple. But something that I've seen a few people do is just a cardboard box full of sawdust. That
Yeah.
seems to work. Or I've got a bag of hay for some reason in the shed.
Oh, that
So I
would do.
thought that might work.
Yeah,
You just put like a
that'd be
layer.
perfect.
It's like a
Yeah.
lasagna of tubers in one box.
Yeah.
As long as you label them, obviously.
Yeah,
I'm not
exactly.
very good at doing.
No, I'm always rubbish at labelling.
Yeah, me too. It's nearly tulip planting time though. Not quite. I'm
Yeah,
not going to do
nearly.
it just yet. I'm
Maybe
gonna
by
do
the
other
time
ones, I
this
think.
episode
I
goes
think
out,
so. Probably
this
by then.
will be a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
So
actually,
it'll be
probably.
about
To be honest, we were
start
saying-
planting your
Well,
tulips
you,
now.
You can. I think you
Go.
probably can. Like it got down to 3 degrees here last night, which is probably cold enough.
Yeah.
Because I remember waiting too long last year, and because of the really harsh winter, that new border that I dug in was frozen solid, and I kept waiting and waiting and waiting to plant the tulips, and it was literally frozen solid. And I remember like stabbing at it with my hoary knife, and like having such like blistered hands at the end of that tulip planting session. So there's like a sweet spot where you can, before everything gets frozen. But everybody says you can do tulips right until the end of December, and they'll just
I planted some
flower
after
later.
Christmas that someone bought me, I think, at Christmas. And they still came up at the same time as all the others.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
there's a nice window of opportunity. So you can wait till it's not freezing cold and hard ground. And, find your moment.
Mine are dying to get in there. They're all just sat in bags.
Are they sprouting?
No, they're okay. Some of the
okay, yeah.
daffodils, daffs
The
should be in
daffs
by
just
now, but I
start
just
sprouting,
can't be
don't they?
bothered. No, I'm going to do all the pots soon, but again, like, because the dahlias are still fine and there hasn't been a frost, I'm loath to take
It's
them
the
out.
balance, isn't it? And
Yeah.
waiting and,
Yeah, it is. One day soon.
Yeah, it's coming. Well, the dailies will be finished soon, won't they?
Yeah, but like, look at them. They're still
I know.
throwing their socks off. It's
We
mad.
had that little tiny frost.
But we had a heat wave the week before.
Exactly, and then it's gone quite mild again. So if the frost stays away, they could last. I mean, normally on a good year, the dailies can get all the way to November, and even I've had them in December one year, and it was just really we basically just didn't have a winter.
Yeah.
So you never know, but that's it. And then, but you don't want to be putting your bulbs in when they're stuck.
Well,
so
that's
it's
the
finding the.
I'm really impatient though, so I really like. This is the thing about bulbs as well. Is that I like the planting of them. I know like people can get tired with it, and it's a lot when it's hundreds. But there's something about this time of year where it's the changing of the seasons. I really like autumn because you're preparing the garden for the next like big thing. And I think what's really exciting, especially when you kind of go mad with tulips and stuff, is that even if they're not bang on what you like and you're not quite happy with them or the particular varieties, you still know that come spring there's going to be so much colour, regardless of whether you like the individual varieties. There's just something about that kind of like chopping through summer and saying that's the end of summer and getting everything in and knowing that the garden's going to be amazing in spring, or hopefully amazing.
I think so. I actually made a reel about that last night. I was saying I made some reels. Yeah, it was about autumn and why it's actually my favourite season.
Yeah,
I mean,
too.
obviously because I get to wear pumpkin clothes
Course.
and oranges, but also just
I
because.
nearly wore the same today,
Yeah,
by
I
the way.
thought so. You didn't want to clap.
No.
There's something about the changing of the seasons, the change in the air, the slightly milder weather, and it's a bit of an in-between.
Yeah.
But the dahlias are at their best, I think, when they've got a bit of dew and they look a bit droopy.
Yeah.
I like that.
I do, and where those dahlias are there, the ones that we were talking about earlier, that's right next to our like kitchen and living room window. I love that opening the blinds in the morning and like the sun is just kind of coming up
Glistening
and it's been
on them.
and it's glistening. And you see like just dripping off it. Like I love that. I wish
And
I
I
could
think it
capture
is. You're preparing for next year at the same time. You're almost reminiscing on this year and everything that's gone well, and you're kind of thinking, right, what went well? What am I going to do next time? You're thinking about your spring bulbs. You're buying them. You're planting them, and you're right. You're kind of. This is the time to prepare the garden for a really good one next year. So actually, I think this is one of the most important seasons in the garden because what you do now gets you started for next year.
It's a bit cheesy, but there's something about putting a bulb, and it's the same with tubers as well, putting a bulb in the ground, that tiny little thing, and knowing 99.9% chance that that's going to come up and be an amazing flower. It's like it is cheesy, but it's like a hope thing, isn't it?
It is a hope
You're putting those hundreds in, and you know what's going to be coming.
Maybe you're right, because autumn is all about hope, really, isn't it, for next year, and planting that stuff and thinking, right, if I plant this now, 5 minutes, what is it, their garden centre normally say 5 minutes bulb planting is 5 years of enjoyment.
But there is that will always amaze me as well. It's the same with like sunflowers and tulips and like alliums and like I don't know, all of the bulbs, especially like the tiny little things, is what they turn into. Like sunflower seeds become the most incredible thing from such. I know it's a large seed, but if you'd never seen a sunflower seed and you'd never seen a sunflower and you showed an alien, this is going to turn into this, you'd be like, what? It's incredible, isn't it? And that's the amazing thing about gardening, isn't it? Is that it's generally such minimal effort to create something incredible, even if it's a single pot or a single plant or a single bulb or a single tuber. That becomes something incredible, doesn't it?
Yeah. Did you grow much from seed this year?
Not as much as I have done, and I haven't done any sort of autumn sowing this year at all.
Terrible.
I can't be. I know you've done a bit. I know you've done your sweet peas, but I can't be bothered, like mothering them through winter. That's my bother with them, and I just.
I am
can't be
generally.
bothered.
I said that to Cara. I am generally a spring sower because you
Me
just
too.
sow, the stuff comes up, you plant it out, it's ready. Like you said, and I haven't got space
No,
really to
no.
overwinter things.
No,
But
I have. The only thing that I have done, it's not really an autumn thing, but I did foxgloves. I always do them as like
yeah, because they're biennial, so you need to get them going.
exactly.
What
but
are you going to grow next year though? Have you got anything in
term-
mind?
what
in terms of
new
seeds?
or different? Well, I don't know really. Well, I tend to. I'll probably do some of the things that I did this year. So I did all my chilies and tomatoes from seed, and they were really good this year. I'm going to have to touch some wood. We were so lucky with the tomatoes. We didn't have a single, bit of blight, like not
That's
at
good.
all. And it was rife this year. And they did really well. The chilies have done quite well as well, so I'll do those again. I'll probably save some of the seeds from the fruit. But in terms of other stuff that I grew from seed last year, the best thing, the one thing that I can recommend to anyone, especially if you grow dahlias, is dill tetra. Like, it's incredible. I got that from Sarah Raven as well, and it's just a dill that you can eat. But like ornamentally,
It
just
looks
looks
amazing.
incredible. And I grew that through most of the dahlias. I grew all the sunflowers from seed, but generally, I buy a lot of plugs, and I think plugs are amazing because I think they've been started off for you. All you've got to do is pop them into little 9 centimetre pots, and then they just grow and grow and grow. Like, I think plugs are kind of I don't know. People are fun. Some people can be funny about plugs.
I was
And
about to say that's cheating. Okay, goodbye.
I had that
I don't-
last year. Somebody
don't
told me
agree,
that
I
plugs were
think.
cheating, and I think that's nonsense.
And I think for a lot of people doing the seeds and stuff, if they haven't got space or the time and stuff, plugs are great because they've already been started for you. They've probably gotten through the tough bit of
Yeah.
getting them going and stuff, and
Yeah.
you can just have them when they're a bit tougher, a bit more established. You could probably plant them straight into the ground at
Yeah.
that point, and
Yeah.
off you go. And they're still probably not as cheap as seeds, obviously, but
No,
they're
but
still pretty
cheaper.
cheap at that point.
Yeah.
And you still have to have the patience to grow them on,
Yeah.
and everything else.
The best thing that I grew from plugs this year was I never know whether it's Thunbergia or Tunbergia. I think it's Tunbergia, but African Sunset. They came as plugs, and they've kind of all died back. You can see it on the obelisk over there.
Oh,
but
yeah.
they
I
were
like
they were just plugs, and they were rampant. They
Wow.
just went incredible. And I got some sweet peas from plugs again because they can be. I know a lot of people find them easy, some people find them hard, but
I find
again,
them hard.
they take up so much space when you're. And I tried. I gave up with them, and I'm almost certain. I don't know if this is going to become like a Dahlia Gate thing, but I don't know if I'm going to do them next year because it felt like they were over really quickly this year. And I think the problem with them is unless you've got a backup, once you rip your sweet peas out, things wherever they've been look really
Big
bare.
gap.
And these Thunbergia, I got a second wave of plugs, I think at the end of August, and they were the same size as the ones that I'd done earlier in the year by the time the other ones were going over. So
Yeah.
I think I might do those as plugs, and I might just not bother with sweet pea. I know.
Well, I was going to tell everyone about
Sweet pea
the
police.
seeds and the fact that this podcast sponsored by Mr. Fothergills. And if you want to buy any seeds, you can
I
get
did get some from Mr.
25% off.
Fothergills last year.
Did you?
I can't remember which variety. It's either Prince Orange or Prince of Orange that
Oh,
I got
yes.
from Mr. Fothergills last year. And they, to be fair, they were gorgeous because it's like, I've got a real thing for orange, and they were like it was quite a deep orange, which I
that's
was
a
really
nice
surprised
colour,
by,
that one.
but that was really nice. So I'd highly recommend those.
Well redeemed. So if you do want to get any seeds, you can have 25% off anything on the Mr. Fothergill's website using code TOM25. Had to remember that because I did get it wrong on one podcast. So there you go. If you don't want to buy plug plants and cheat like Adam, then you can get some seeds. No, I'm joking. I do think plug plants are great, and I think actually Mr. Fothergills do have some actual plants and plugs and stuff on their website as well,
They do.
which I'm sure you can use the discount code
I
on.
got some lettuce from Mr. Fothergills as well, which we didn't grow this year, but we grew it last year, and it was just in a pot, and it was by the back door, and we were picking it and picking it and picking it, and literally from one pot, it was quite a large pot, but we had enough like lettuce for almost every sandwich that we had for that whole season.
I like that,
it's
just
incredible.
a little pot of lettuce or something,
But it
stuff like
shows that you can do that again. Another thing with pots, like if you've just got like a courtyard or like a balcony
car
or whatever,
park
or a
like
car
me.
park like you can grow anything in pots, can't you? You literally can, and I think that's the great thing about pots. I think a lot of people perhaps think that they're just for bedding plants or they're just for, I don't know, kind of smaller things, but you can pretty much grow anything in a pot, I think.
So back to you.
Back to me.
I feel like we've
Forget about
talked, so we've
pots.
basically done a podcast about plants now.
It's fine. That's all I'm
We're
about,
not after
Tom.
sponsorship from a plant company or anything. But let's talk about the podcast, because you're on my podcast,
Don't know
so
what
we're
a
not talking
podcast
about
is,
it.
Tom.
Okay, that's the end of that section. No, your podcast. What is your podcast?
Tales from Two Pence.
Go on.
Thanks, Tom.
Great friend.
Memorable name.
No, your podcast, Tales from the
What's
Bottom
yours
Bed.
called? Saturn
Yeah,
Sub?
yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's how many seasons? 5 now.
5. This is the 5th season, which is still going while this episode goes out. It never started as a podcast. It started as that did start in lockdown as a series of lives on Instagram.
Oh,
Well, it
okay.
started as one live on Instagram. Then I thought, okay, I'll download the audio from it and turn it into a podcast. And then, like 5 seasons later, I think it's 70 or 80 episodes or something. And for anyone that hasn't listened to it, it's basically just a conversation with someone from the planty world. I kind of say planty because it's not just gardening. There are some houseplant people. There are people that are kind of indirectly involved with gardening and kind of houseplants as well. Some people you might know, some people you might not know. And it's just kind of an informal chat with them about how they got into it, what they do, what they've got coming up in the future. All really light-hearted, nothing hard. Nice thing that you can just kind of pop on in your ears, like when you're pottering in the garden on a Sunday. That's
My
kind of
favourite
my
bit, I
thing.
think, is when you get towards the end and you go, right, I've got some questions for you. Don't be scared about these questions. And you can hear them being like, oh, God, what am I about to be asked? But you find out some really cool stuff about people, and the questions are quite random, which I like.
Yeah.
And
They
you're just
change for each
finding out
season,
about
but
people.
I think that's my favourite bit as well. I quite like that because I purposely don't write like notes or do like research, not because I'm lazy, but just because I think it's nice to have a chat with someone about things that you might not have heard them already talk about.
Yeah.
I think, but then those 3 questions are kind of a nice way to ask them things that are really like personal to their gardening style. So on the current season, it's all about like your favourite scent and like why do you enjoy gardening so much? And that's such a broad question. But the amount of people that when I ask that go,
You've had some
Oh,
great
God.
answers to that question,
Yeah,
though.
they've been
really
fantastic.
kind of moving answers to that question
Yeah.
as well, which I've loved.
Yeah, me too. I love that. And like the scent one really divides people as well, because there've been quite a few people that have said lavender this season, but then someone comes out with something, like the smell of the rain, the smell of the garden after rain, and all that
that's
kind
a
of
good
stuff.
one.
And it's got a word that petrichor. Did you know
Ooh,
that?
You're good with words.
I know, right?
You should
It's-
work for somewhere that
Should.
works with words.
It's petrichor. I don't know what it actually means, but it's the smell of the garden after it's rained.
I like rain smell in general.
Me too. Me too.
But it's normally because it's been on like hot tarmac, isn't it? Actual rain
Yeah,
smell
yeah.
rather than the garden.
Yeah.
But it's nice.
Is that your
You've got me
favourite?
thinking now.
Hot tarmac.
I know. Well, you're going to ask me.
Maybe
this
I'll ask you
question.
soon.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm panicking. Can you see the panic on my face? Thinking, what scent do I like? Think of a scent.
I love it though. I think it's my favourite thing that I've ever done, and out of everything, I just love. I don't like talking to people. I like listening to people, and that's the thing. Is I love it when I'm talking with someone and I ask them a question and they just talk for 10 minutes. I love that. I love just sitting there and listening to someone tell me everything about why they love gardening or whatever it is that we've kind of gone into. Because I think that's the thing about gardening, isn't it? Is that we're all so different. We all garden in such different ways. We've all got such different tastes. But it's something that is still, no matter whether you love dahlias or don't like dahlias or do like tulips and you don't like tulips, you've got a lawn, you haven't got a lawn, we're all still gardening in a similar way. We're all still doing similar things, and it's a kind of a shared bond that we've all got,
Yeah.
isn't it? No matter what we're doing in our gardens.
Which is exactly why we all connect, and it's such a nice community on Instagram
God,
and
yeah.
stuff as well.
Yeah.
There's no everyone, pretty much every episode we've talked about it, and everyone said how there's never really a negative thing in the gardening space on Instagram. It's one of the best communities, and I think it's because of that. Everyone just has a shared love and passion for
Yeah.
it, and just wants to help each other, because you're ultimately helping more people to enjoy it, get into it, and that sort of thing. And how have you found the kind of Instagram journey? Obviously, we talked a bit about it earlier and where it started, but look where it's got to now. You've got like 1 billion followers or something.
It's not quite a billion.
Not quite. But you've got a lot of followers,
Yeah.
and you've got podcasts and everything else. You get to meet all these amazing people and tell their stories and connect with so many people as well.
Hear that duck in the background? Sorry, you're asking a really lovely question.
Duck.
But
It's not one of the sound effects on the board. It's a real duck. But yeah, how do you find that with the Instagram community and stuff?
I love it, and I think I nearly said this but I think that's the amazing thing about Instagram and I presume this must be the same for, I don't know, like the knitting community on Instagram or like the crochet community or whatever, is that it doesn't matter like where you are in the world, like what your age is, what your background is or whatever, we all manage to, I don't know, just gel from this like one shared love. And I think the thing about Instagram, for all of its like faults that there are, it's such a fantastic space to get inspiration and just to see what everyone else is doing. I sometimes use Instagram as a bit of a prompt to, oh, I didn't know it was time to do that, or I didn't know it was time to do this, because not everybody remembers everything. Like,
No.
it's impossible to. And I think sometimes when I see someone doing something, sometimes it can be a bit of a, oh God, I haven't got enough time to do that, or whatever, or oh, is that too early? Is that too late? Blah 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 blah. But I also just think it's such an invaluable free. I think this is the thing. Like, we don't realise. Obviously, we don't pay for Instagram. Like, it's a free space where everybody's sharing everything. And it's such an incredibly valuable place to get all of this knowledge.
That's actually the first few slides in my workshops that I do.
Oh.
Yes, so
Where are these workshops about?
it's not an advert. I just thought it was interesting that you
Yeah.
said that. Because, when I do the workshops, when I'm telling people the benefits of social media and why they want to be on it in the first place, I mean, hopefully they know that anyway by the fact they're coming on a workshop. But the fact that it is free, it's the biggest free space for people to follow, get tips, get inspiration. You follow someone that you like, that you resonate with, whatever the reasons, that you're getting some value from it. So particularly, and then obviously throughout the rest of the workshop we talk about what value they're going to add back to people. But exactly that, you're in people's lives because they choose to follow you for something, and that means a lot, doesn't it?
My Instagram, I think, is probably, I'm kind of realising this now, I think, but it's probably my biggest source of inspiration for the garden. It just is. And I've got a notes, I'm sure everyone's like this, but I've got a notes thing on my phone where if I see someone share like a new tulip and I think, oh, I want that next year, you make a note of it. And what I always do, and I've especially done this year, is if someone's shared a new dahlia, it's dahlias in particular, I think, that I've seen, I'll put it in the notes, but I'll put their username next to it as well, so that when I come to grow it next year and I share it, I can say, oh, I saw this on yours last time, I can tag them. And I think that's really nice way to, I don't know, it is just a great community, isn't it? And I think the great thing as well is you genuinely make friends from, and obviously I'm not saying this just because you're here, but we've become really, really good friends.
We have.
And that, our paths probably wouldn't have crossed without Instagram or without gardening. And that just was a really like natural friendship that just happened. And I think the great thing is that the first time I met you was at Chelsea last year, which is insane that it feels like it's been longer than that, in a good way. Well, in a good way.
Like a lifetime.
Anyway,
I'll get rid of him.
It does feel like a lifetime. But you, because you've talked online and you've met, it's not awkward
exactly.
at all.
We probably chatted for a while before that with the lockdowns and stuff, because that Chelsea was the first one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the first proper one.
It was the first event, really, after
It
everything.
was, yeah, it was. And I think, you could go to a show. There have been shows that I've gone to where I think there's no one that I know that's going, and then suddenly you see someone from Instagram, and
Yeah.
they're with someone, and suddenly that's like a gaggle of you walking around, and you realise that you all know each other just because of Instagram. And like that again, it's free. Like it's like you've just found these people, and it's like finding your tribe, isn't it? And that's the thing that's thrown around a lot, or a phrase that's
Yeah.
thrown around a lot. But
It is
it
finding
is.
your tribe and the people that you connect to. And it's that thing going back to why people are on Instagram is they choose to follow people that they resonate with and they connect with. So you basically are building that friendship naturally because
Yeah,
you're choosing to follow people because you like them in some way or another. And then actually then you start to message and have a bit of conversation
yeah,
and
exactly.
you're going to hit it off. And
Yeah,
then
and I
when
think sometimes I've gone to shows specifically to see people, or like I think, oh, I'm not sure whether I was going to go to that, but then I find out someone else is going. I think, well, actually, I know I will. I mean, the amount of shows that we've been to this year has been
I know.
slightly insane,
It
but
has.
I think for some of them, I probably wouldn't have gone because there wasn't necessarily a reason, or it's quite far away, or like we've been able to go together, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that's just been an incredible like friendship, and like just building that all through Instagram is really great when you think about it.
It is, and it's funny because some of my friends that aren't on Instagram or don't really do Instagram, they're like, you meet up with random people that you've never met before, just in random places. I'm like, well timed. I'm like, yeah, I do,
Yeah.
because they're not random. You know,
That tickled me there.
I've chatted to them for years,
Exactly,
you know,
yeah.
or, you know, months, or we have a shared passion in gardening. I'm not going to meet them somewhere random and shady, but, you know, I'll meet
Like
them
an
at a
Asda car
gardening.
park.
Yeah,
Sorry
I'll
to
meet-
mention Asda again.
God, Asda's getting a bashing today. But you're going to meet them at a garden show and we're going to look around the garden and we'll have something to talk. So, you know, people think, well,
Yeah.
wouldn't that be really awkward? You've never met this person. What are you going to talk about? What if you don't like them? You're going to have a shared
something-
love
yeah,
of
exactly.
gardening and the stuff to talk about. And I think that's why we make such good friends as well from it, because we instantly have a shared passion and
Yeah.
connection, stuff to talk about. There's no dry
But we don't
conversation.
really talk about gardening, that's the
We
thing.
don't anymore.
That's funny, isn't it? Yeah.
But when we first started, when we
Yeah.
met at that Chelsea, we went round the gardens together and
Yeah.
was looking and talking about what we loved and what we
Yeah.
didn't love. And it
Yeah.
was only probably the next few times after that we started just never talking about gardening anymore
Yeah.
and, you know, everything else. But
Yeah, it's been
that-
good, hasn't it?
I've met so many great friends and stuff through the Instagram community, and I love the opportunity to keep making more and meeting more
Yeah.
amazing people and
Me too.
connecting people and doing stuff. So
And I think the good thing about the shows as well is that we kind of joke that we've been to a lot, and we have been to a lot
We
this
ha-
year, but is that
I
because
think-
they're all
no,
over
not
the
even
country.
joking. I think we went to all
don't-
of the RHS
all of the
shows
RHS
pretty
ones.
much, which is crazy to say.
Yeah, you're right, because even the ones
All
that
the
we
big
said we
ones
weren't
anyway.
going to go to, I think we ended up
We
going
ended
to
up- yeah,
anyway.
we did.
Because somebody said to me about Tatton the other day, I can't remember exactly what they said, something that or when I saw you at Tatton, and I said to Amy, my wife, I didn't go to Tatton. And then I realised,
You
no,
did.
actually I did.
We went together.
Yeah, I know.
You were there.
But they all start to blur into one, like, slightly,
do.
don't they? But
Yeah.
I think that is the other thing, is because they're all over the country. You can go to, like, a Gardener's World Live in Essex, or you can go to Tatton, which is, like, Manchester way, and you're going to see different people, and you're gonna meet different people, and you're going to talk about gardening in different ways, because the way people grow in Essex isn't necessarily going to be the same as the way that they grow in Manchester or Scotland or wherever. And that's the incredible thing, is that you're learning about all different types of growing, all different ways of growing, and you're meeting so many different people along the way. Like, that's been the best thing about all of this, like, genuinely, that's been the most amazing thing about this, is that finding so many people that have got this shared love that you all have kind of a shorthand on. Like, you can all, whether you've got the same personal interests or not, or politically or anything, you've all still got a same kind of, you all know what a tulip is, you all know what a lawn is, you know what I mean? Like, in the most basic form, you've all got an opinion on something, and it's all very amicable. That's the thing. Like, there's never, there aren't arguments in the gardening. I'm sure there are, but there's no arguments.
Not
we all just
really,
kind of
because we all-
crack on with it, don't we?
I think we all know that there's different, like you say, different conditions, different environments,
Yeah.
depending where you are, different techniques that all work and work for different people.
Yeah.
And I think we just have a bit of respect for that and
Yeah.
all the different, we learn from each other's different ways of doing things and stuff, don't we?
And that is the best thing, is that you learn that the way you've been doing something either could be done better, or you're doing it really well, or I think that's it. It can really be a confidence boost as well. Sometimes like I said about the blight thing earlier, although we haven't had it this year, I think if we had, and I'd have seen that everyone else was having it, you don't feel as bad about your garden. Or like,
Yeah.
I remember posting when I would joke about the dahlias, but I remember posting that first time that I'm not growing dahlias next year. And I remember the amount of people saying, "No, Normie, I'm not going to do them because of slugs and whatever." And you feel it's that community that you've got people around you, that you're not just boring your partner.
And I
or
love
boring your
that you
kids or
can
whatever.
post something and say, I have no idea what I'm doing with this. Who's got any tips? And you'll
Yeah.
have
A
100
flood of
different
stuff,
people's
yeah.
opinions on what they do and what works for them and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And there's no one going, oh my God, you don't know that. You're meant to be a gardener.
No, exactly.
You know, even when we have a podcast and we go to the shows and whatever, like we don't know everything. And actually, it's great that the
I
gardening
don't really know
community,
anything, to be honest.
neither of us know anything basically. We just black our way through. But you can
joke.
ask. We joke, but
Yeah.
it's true. But yeah, you can ask, and
Yeah.
people will. There's no judgment. You know, we're all here to help each other.
The
Isn't
first time you've grown something, you have to remember is other people have grown that for the first time too. Like, you're not expected to, unless you've trained or whatever, and you've done all the RHS levels. But even then, like, not everybody's done everything, and not everybody does everything the same way. And sometimes there are technically right and wrong ways to do things or whatever. But it doesn't mean that they can't be done in other ways.
No.
You know.
Yeah, exactly. Do you feel like you are blagging it?
Yeah. Massively. Got no idea what I'm doing.
I think everyone is, really.
Absolutely no idea.
I think
I have to
everyone
Google, when do I
blagged it.
prune this? When do I prune that? Like, and most of the time I just don't prune anything. Just hope for the best. Genuinely, I think if I put a plant in a pot, I think I'm just doing this and hoping for the best. But I think it's a
That's
joke.
The
But I
part
think
of when we said
Exactly.
about gardening, though, that's what it's all about.
Exactly, and I think you think about the seasons that we've had, particularly, I know it's progressively changed, but over the last year in particular, the harsh winter and, like, whatever the heck this summer's been, like, not a summer, but then...
Non-existent.
But we say that, but then there's been times that have been, like, gloriously hot, but then suddenly wet and suddenly whatever. But that is the amazing thing, is that you're putting your hopes and whatever into whatever plant you put in the ground. And the same as what I said with the tulips and the bulbs, is you're putting that in and kind of hoping for the best and hoping it does something. I always think that with any new plant that I put in, if I've never grown it before, I'm popping it in a pot, I'm popping it in the ground to the best of my ability and hoping for the best. And 9 times out of 10 it normally comes out good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what's next then for you? What's your plans for next
More of
year?
the
What's
same.
next?
More shows.
More blagging it.
More shows. I'm hoping to... I'd like to do some more talks and stuff next year, because I've really loved that this year. That's been a new thing this year. So I've done quite a lot of talks at garden clubs and, like, women's institute societies and all sorts of things. There's not a village hall within 10 miles of here that I've not visited this year. Those have been really fun, but doing the talks at the shows has been really, really fun. And I think, like, for a moment of, like, a reality thing, is that I've booed myself through all of these. Like, it's not a natural thing for me standing up in front of a crowd of people. And you've been witness to my pre-show nerves. And I've loved that so much, being out and talking to people and people being, like, inspired from what I've done. And, like, most of the ones that I've done this year have been about the DIY and the pallets and things. And what's been so nice is that you kind of do a talk and you go away from the show and think about the next one. But between, there've been so many random emails that I've never thought I would get. So after Wisley, this guy emailed me and said, "Oh, these are all the things that I've done in my garden," and attached a load of pictures
wow.
of stuff he'd made from pallets and whatever. And I've had a few from people that have then gone away and made the same thing that I'd made at the talk, which has been really, really nice. So that's been really fun. So I'd like to do some more talks next year. So if anyone that's listening that organises talks for shows, then get in touch. But yeah, I'm hoping to do more of that, more shows next year. Yeah, I think that's it. I think I'd like to maybe look at, I don't know, designing something at some point. But I don't know enough to do that, to be honest. I blag my way through it there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the style which
Keep-
we've established.
keep blagging.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think most people, everyone that follows you will want to see what comes next and what happens and
So will I.
what you blag your way into next.
Yep.
But that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's just enjoy it, see where it goes.
We
do
say
stuff
blag, but
that
I
makes
think
you
it's
poo
just
yourself.
Exactly. If you don't do something that makes you poo yourself a little bit, then you're not doing it right.
It's true. It is 100% true. You've got to keep pushing yourself, and I think if you're not having that feeling of like, oh God, is this the right thing? Oh my God, I'm really nervous. But
Yeah.
then, like you say, the reward after that of hearing people that have been inspired by it,
Yeah.
and you've got some more work out of it, and got to go to more shows or whatever it is. Like, yeah, you just keep pushing yourself a little bit,
Yeah.
and and then you look back as well in a few years' time and be like, wow, remember when I would never even go on stage and do a talk?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
we'll be
But
laughing
like what we
at
said
when
about
you
the
were at
garden at the
Wisley and
start.
you,
I know, right?
you
Exactly.
were pooing yourself.
But that's the thing, isn't it? Is if you don't push yourself, it's easy to say once you've done it, but if you don't push yourself outside your comfort zone, I think you genuinely don't know what you're capable of. And if you'd have said, I think, a year or two ago that I'd been doing a talk at an RHS garden show like that, I'd have said no way, because that's not my comfort zone at all. But I just think it's an incredible world that we've all found of gardening, full of so many different opportunities for so many different people in so many different ways. And that's also been a joy of Instagram, is the finding friends or finding more friends and finding people that have got that shared love, but that are also going off and doing amazing different things, and you're not all doing the same thing. I think that's been amazing, to make those friends and see them kind of like blossom and bloom into other things. Like what you've been doing, again, a year or two ago, you probably wouldn't have dreamt that you'd have been doing what you were doing. And I think that's been amazing to see people grow as well as like the gardening's growing. That's cheesy, but that's it's true. There are people that you've made friends with that you see regularly that have gone on to do incredible things that you would.
Well, what I love, I think, as well, like going back to the community, is that we support each other and we give each other opportunities as well. The amount of, people have passed me opportunities when they know that I'm doing what I'm doing, and they go, I'm really busy. What about Tom? Or, people have invited me to press events that they've been invited to and go, you should have Tom there or whatever. And
should have come to Sarah Raven, I'm just saying. But.
Don't. I know, I really wanted to. But, all of that. And I do the same for other people, because I think we all want to support each other and help each other. And that's the thing, is there's no nope, it's all about me. You know, everyone wants to help each other.
It's a big enough world, isn't it?
There's plenty for everyone. And I think we all just want to see each other do well. And
there's plenty of plants in the garden
exactly. Centre. Shall we record the end of the podcast together?
Okay.
Because we can put the music on and we can do a little ending,
if you want to,
can't we? Shall we?
How long was
that? Be nice, won't it? Well, that was lovely, wasn't it?
Very nice, Tom. I enjoyed that thoroughly.
Oh, you're still here?
Oh, I am. Are you recording?
You're not normally still here. The guests aren't normally here at the end.
Oh, well, I am. I'm not going anywhere, Tom. You live at my house now. Did you not know that?
That's
part of the deal.
But I don't know how I feel about the fact that that was the final episode.
Is it the final episode, Tom? Are you sure about that? Are you sure there's not a bonus episode all about you, the podcast, and why you created this podcast in the first place?
Well, I thought it can't be all about all the guests. So this next one's all about me. No, not really.
Bring it on.
I'm going to now do an episode of your podcast.
You are.
So
Tales from the Potting Bench. Anyone that's not already subscribed.
So we don't know when it's going to go out, because
a couple of weeks' time.
We haven't decided. But
that will be all about you, Tom.
All about me.
All about you.
As much as we joke, if you do want to find out a bit more about me and my journey, then you'll be able to on Adam's podcast, Tales from the Potting Bench, and you'll just have to keep listening and following to find out when that's going to be.
Yes.
But we thought that before we end Sip and Sow for this season...
Good Lord, is it the end of the season already?
It's the end of the season. Then you're going to ask me a bit about the podcast, and
I'm
we'll
going to
talk
give you a grilling, Tom.
Oh gosh!
Hope you realise that 3 of the most difficult questions you've ever been asked in your life.
Wow. Okay. Great.
Prepare yourself.
So we thought we'd share a bit behind the scenes of the podcast, what it's been like to make, who my favourite guests have been. Not Adam.
Rude.
The cake was terrible.
It's fine. It's
It's
delicious.
actually quite nice.
It's delicious.
It's just disclaimer.
I've
it's
eaten all of
actually quite
mine, so
nice.
Asda, thank you. Not that they sent the cake, but if you'd like to send some cake,
So at this point, I usually tell you about the next episode. So there is going to be one final bonus episode, which is all about the making of the first season of Sip Sow with Adam. So join us next week for a little bonus episode.
see you then.
See you then. Just have to sit here now and listen to the end of the track.